Good evening and welcome to the August edition of Your Questions Answered. I'm Michael, KB9VBR.
And I'm Dave, KZ9V.
And it is Thursday, August 3rd, 2023. And welcome everybody that's filing into the room this evening and all of our Team Replay members that are catching this stream at a later date. Thanks for tuning in on us. So I got Dave in the house tonight. So Dave, how you doing?
Yeah, it's been a couple months. Yeah, I think the last one I was umpiring a softball game in Menominee.
Yeah, I think that was that must have been April or May. So
yeah,
probably the May one, I think. But
maybe. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. You were literally on the road, and this month Joe is on the road. He's in Michigan for a training conference, so it's unable to be with us this evening. So thanks for filling in those awful big shoes. So
yeah, really big shoes.
They're more like clown shoes. So.
Yeah. Well, Joe brings a lot of humor to the shows. I give him credit for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's easy to play the straight man with him. So, yeah. But we got a big show tonight. We got a lot of stuff going on. It's been a busy summer, and I'm starting to see some questions floating into the chat room here. So if you've got any ham radio related questions, we'd love to get to as many of them as we can. So drop them in there, and I'll try to flag them so we can answer those. But I see we've got a few people coming in here. Let's see. We got 45. Can't get spotted cow in Texas. They opened a Shiner. You know, our local grocery store's got Shiner Bock, and I actually enjoy that beer. That's a nice beer. Oh, Mike from across the river, Scout from up north. Let's see, Brent, happy August 3rd, which he reminds us it's the day Christopher Columbus set sail. So that's an interesting factoid. I didn't know that. So.
No, yeah, I would not. No.
Karen's with us, and she's another local, so good evening. And Andy from M7 XTT, the UK. So hello there. I think M7 is the UK, isn't it? So
yes. Yep.
Yes. Okay. Alberto. Colin from VK land down under. So good day to you. Good day back. So it's
I've been watching the Women's World Soccer Tournament on TV, and every once in a while they'll be especially cold, and you can see the breath of the players. And then they give you a shot of the coach standing on the sideline, and he looks like George Hallis with his winter fur coat on. You forget that it's winter down there.
Kind of like our frozen tundra here.
It is. Yeah. I mean, July must be the equivalent of what, January?
January, probably. So,
yeah.
But I still think, doesn't Australia stay mostly temperate even in the winter months? So, but there's got to be areas that get cold, I would imagine. But yeah, that's a good question. So, all right. Got a few more. They got Cornbread, let's talk antenna. Yeah, we'll get to antenna questions. I've got a few lined up. Don from the Twin Cities. I was in the Twin Cities last weekend. So that was a quick trip. Chris's, she had a cousin that passed away, and they had a funeral on Sunday. So we went over Saturday morning and caught the new Charles Schultz exhibit at the Minnesota History Museum, which was really cool. If you're into the comic, the comic strip Peanuts,
right?
It's a fun little exhibit. And then saw some of the other stuff. And I worked 4 parks.
Really?
Because it was actually 2 activations, but 2 twofers. So. Fort Snelling State Park, which is down on where the Mississippi and the Minnesota rivers converge.
Yeah, it's by the airport.
Yeah, it's literally on the end of the runway there at
Yeah,
the airport.
yeah, yeah.
That's Fort Snelling State Park is also part of the Mississippi River National Recreation Area, so that counts as a twofer.
Yeah, that runs a long ways up and along the side of the river. Yep.
Yeah, that's a big area. So that was kind of neat. I didn't know about that until after the fact, so I had to duplicate my log. And
Yep.
and then Sunday morning, before we had to go to the funeral, we were at, which was in Eden Prairie. I found another park. Let's see, where was it? Oh, the Minnesota National Wildlife Refuge, which was also cross-listed with the Minnesota River State Trail. So we parked at the trailhead and got that twofer.
Yeah.
So it was 4 parks in 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah. I love those trails, and we've got so many of them here in Wisconsin, the Rails to Trails program, and I can't wait for Parks on the Air to start registering more entities, because we've got a lot of trails that need to be recognized, and they're great for activating because they're long. So you could be on one end to the other. You could have 100 guys all activating the trail. They'd be miles and miles apart.
That's kind of the neat thing about the Ice Age Trail, because it's 1,200 miles long, and there's activations every day on that trail. If you look at the page, it's history page, so it's crazy.
Yeah, the Appalachian Trail, for sure.
Appalachian Trail too. Yep, absolutely. So I see Simon just posted a question. I'm going to put yours aside because I've got another question that's going to dovetail with that really nice. But we're going to say hi to the Hog Wild Ham from Tennessee. And Rails to Trails are awesome. And I'm going to grab a question here, just a quickie here from Sean. He's asking, what's your preferred band for FT8 when working from your shack at home? Oh, that's a great question. Probably, I don't know if I have any preferences. 20, usually a lot. If I'm looking for FT8 contacts, probably 20 or 40 meters. But I think my most rewarding FT8 band is probably 30. 30 is really neat.
Yeah, it's 30 for sure.
Noise.
Yeah, 30. Yeah, because it's not only it's day and night, which a lot of the band now 20 meters right now is day and night because of the sunspot cycle, but 30 is clearly my favorite. At night, 40 in the wintertime when the noise drops a little bit, 80 at night, but not during the day. So the time of day and time of year plays a factor there.
Oh, definitely. But I think the last couple times I've used 30 meters, and usually I've done 30 like early, sort of like the early evening hours, around 8 o'clock local time, and it's a nice, it's a quiet band, not a lot of noise, and it's not overcrowded like 20 meters is. And you can really get some interesting DX on it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's got all the advantages of both 20 and 40 rolled into one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now the single sideband guys are all getting envious because they're not allowed.
Sideband has been tough. It really has been these last few weeks. 40 meters is it just a lot of times it dies. 80 is just a bucket of noise, and then but 20 it's just been that roller coaster up and down like crazy.
The deep fades. Yeah, like every 5 or 10 seconds another fade. It's crazy. We're talking like 20 dB. You go from S8 to nothing, and then 5 seconds later they're back.
Yeah, absolutely. So Yeah, we're talking about the Twin Cities trip. Cornbread says he went to the Indian casino near Eden Prairie and won a big pot. Everyone else went to the mall. We actually went to the mall in Eden Prairie. I saw a movie. I haven't been to in a movie theater for ages, so we had some time to kill after dinner and caught the new Indiana Jones movie. So that was fun. It was
I'm
either
actually,
that or it was either that or see the 10:30 p.m. showing of Oppenheimer on IMAX, and I didn't want to be in the theater until 2 o'clock in the
yeah,
morning.
yeah. I thought my wife took the grandkids to see Barbie last week. I thought maybe that's where you went.
Well, that was one of the options too, but the show times we probably should have went to go. We probably should have went to go see Barbie, but because we would have, we still got out of the theater like 11:30 at night. But yeah. I see a question here from Alan, and I had it flagged, but he's asking what the brand of coax do you recommend? 25 feet with a BNC. Well, I've got a couple runs of no-name coax, and that stuff is, take it or leave it. It's okay, but nothing spectacular. If I'm buying, quality coaxial cable, usually the two brands I usually look at are Cable Experts. They're out of Chicago, the Chicagoland area, which is relatively close for me, and they've got really good stuff. I got a spool of a 50-foot run of 8X from Cable Experts that I bought close to 20 years ago, and I'm still using it. That's how good it is. Who knows if it's still, well, actually, their stuff's still good because I bought some 6 months ago, and it's just fine. And then MPD Digital is another company that I've been buying cable from. They're out of Georgia, and that's another. They're an official dealer for Times Microwave. So if you like the LMR stuff, get it from MPD. American made, American, they do all of the assembly in the US, veteran owned, woman owned business. So it hits all of those buttons, if you're looking for a good company. So.
Yeah. I've been a ham for so long and I've got so much cable laying around. I haven't bought a spool of cable in 20 years. I don't know. I don't even, does Belden make cable? I know we used to buy Belden all the time in the
I think
TV
they do.
business.
Yeah.
All of our coax at the TV stations was all Belden.
That's good. Yeah, that's a quality brand too. I know we've had a lot of when our club was putting up repeaters. That's the brand that they always would use. And I know we've had our club's got spools and spools of that stuff that's probably 30 years old, and it's still just as good. I know I saw in the chat here people, another recommendation was ABR. Let me see if I can find that there. ABR Industries. Yeah, they make that. That's another good American-made company. That's quality stuff. So that's another route to go. DX Engineering. I don't know who makes their private label coax, but I think it might be assembled in the U.S. I'll have to check on that. But hopefully, Alan, that gives you some ideas on where to find some good quality cable. Okay. As a follow-up, Alan is asking, have you used the Soda Beam's band hopper? I have not. I think the band hopper, that's their link dipole antenna, if I remember correctly. And I built my own. So that's something I have not. I don't have any of their antennas. Their stuff is nice though. It's real lightweight. If you're backpacking. And whatnot.
That should almost be a mandatory build for beginning hams. It's either a linked dipole or a fan dipole, and you'll pull your hair out for a while with your calculator and your tape measure and all of that stuff, but you'll learn a lot if you build a fan dipole or a linked dipole.
Oh, you will, absolutely. And they're not that, a standard dipole antenna is super easy to make. I've got a couple videos on how to make them, with even from building your own little center connector and then that with the link dipole, how to measure out the elements and to put the links into place. So
Yeah.
a fan, I haven't done a fan though. That's a little, they're a little bit more difficult, if you want to use them for portable because they, it takes a little bit more effort. I know a Chameleon sent me their fan dipole once, and I think it took me a half hour to get that thing up in the air for Parks on the Air activation. So I just kind of set that antenna aside. It worked well though.
I took one to Hawaii with me one time in a suitcase, and I hung it up, the center up in a palm tree, and then I just ran the legs off to. That's the problem, though. Is you got all those legs, you got to tie them off to something. So you're always looking for a bush or a porch railing or something, because it's an octopus. The legs go in every direction. So
every direction, all over the place. Yeah.
But it's the sweet multi-band antenna, because you can sit inside in the air conditioning and working all night long without having to go out and change jumpers or make any antenna adjustments. So
you've got all the benefits of a true dipole antenna with very, very limited number of downsides. There's a little bit of interaction between the elements that can kind of throw your lobes off a tad, but otherwise no. But they're good antennas.
Really good.
So I just like this week's video was with the car antenna by Coffee and Ham Radio. Is this their end-fed half-wave antenna? And I've been kind of really been pleased with how this thing's been operating. So I can't wait to get it on the air again. They got they send along a piece of shrink wrap, so I gotta. Now that I got it adjusted, I got to get the shrink wrap on there. But we'll have to do that.
That kit reminded me of when I built the one that I bought from ARRL. They sell that 4010 kit, and it comes in a box, so it doesn't assemble in that winder like the one that you have. In fact, we did a video at Black River Falls a couple of years ago, and I brought that right after I had built it. Yeah, that 4010 NFED that's a sweet thing to have in your kit.
It's a good, I like, my philosophy with antennas are to have two styles with me. A vertical antenna, something that I can put up anywhere, regardless if there's a support available or not. And then some type of a wire antenna, and that I got to use a tree or whatnot. And I typically, for the wire antennas, have that, I got my link dipole. I think that's still sitting in the bottom of the box, but an NFED of some sort. And I've been kind of, the last few months, I've been alternating between the NFED half wave and the NFED random wire antenna. I really like the random wire antenna because the half waves typically, they don't have the best performance on 30, 17, and 12 meters. Just those harmonics just don't line up right. And with the tuner, with the random wire and the tuner, I can get all of those bands plus 74 feet of wire gets me down to 80 meters, which with a half wave antenna, the 64 or 65 feet long one only will do 40 meters, which is a little bit of a bummer. But
well, there's two fixes for that. One is you can easily add 80 by putting that little coil and a whip on the end, like it demonstrated at Black River. That'll get you 80. But the really sweet deal is if you have the space, instead of a 65-foot wire, you use a 130-foot wire. So then your fundamental frequency is 30.5.
Yes.
And you do the math, and all of those work bands suddenly become, they fall in the right place.
They've fallen.
That's the ultimate NFED, is that 130. What is long? What do you get? 100? I can't do the math in my head right now. It's about 130 feet, right?
It's 130. It's 130-ish feet. Yeah, I put one up last fall. Oh man. we were at Governor Thompson State Park, and the campsites are big. They're long at Governor Thompson, which is really nice. But I think I was 50 feet into the pucker brush. And the other end of the antenna was in the far, the other far corner of the campsite. So it was long.
But it doesn't have to go in a straight line. You can zigzag around or whatever you got to do. But I used my NFED just a couple of weeks ago. We were camping and we were over at Willow River State Park, and that was the night I texted you. I thought we were all going to die because that windstorm and the lightning and oh my God, and we're sitting there in the RV, I'm just waiting for it to tip over. And but the storm gets over, and I had earlier in the day I had put up that NFED up in this giant white oak trees. And I thought, sure, that when the storm's over, if we survive, that wire would be two counties away. But it was still there, and I turned it on, and oh my God, I had been using the Wolf River coil vertical, and this NFED wire was just on fire. I had the hugest pile up that night. Next day. Yeah, it was unbelievable. I'm a believer in that NFED, and
they're good antennas.
Yeah,
They definitely are, and I know we've got a few questions in the chat about NFED antennas, and they're all related to another question that I got offline. So I kind of want to get into it, into this question, but I lost my question. Here we go. Okay. John Walton, 5824, he says, is it correct to say that a counterpoise is not needed for this antenna? And when he says this antenna, he's talking about an NFED half-wave antenna, like the, like the car antenna I've got here. Yep. And that's a really good question because there's, and I know we've got a couple in the chat. Simon asks a question about NFED half-wave counterpoise length and choke placements. Always seems to cause big arguments on the forums. Or what's our views on that? And same with TextPat. It's got an NFED half-wave with 100 feet of coax. Where's the best place to put the common mode choke? At the antenna feed or at the radio? So all of these questions are related. And Dave, are we gonna give them the definitive answer tonight? Or
there's controversy, so no matter what we say, there will be someone that will not agree.
Will not agree. This is one of these ham radio holy wars.
And the truth be told, it will work either way. You can put a counterpoise on. Most of these transformers are designed with a connection that you can put a counterpoise on it if you want to.
Yep. This is the radiator. This is then the counterpoise. So
and you could put a stake in the ground and run a wire to it if you want to. You don't have to. I don't. But it needs something to replicate the counterpoise. And what most of us do is because it's being fed at the low current point on the antenna, it doesn't need much of a counterpoise. And in most cases, we just use the coax shield. And so the shield of your feed line becomes the counterpoise. And the downside that you have to be cautious of is that now you have RF flowing on the outside of your coax.
Yep.
And you don't want that to come all the way back to the transceiver. So what you wind up doing is put an isolation transformer somewhere in that feed line. And the theory is that it needs to be 15 or 20% of a wavelength of the lowest frequency that you're going to use. And I don't know how critical that is, but what I do recommend is that you use the same coax every time you deploy this antenna, because if you cut your NFED wire to be resonant at the exact frequencies that you want, and then the next time you deploy it, you use a way longer or a way shorter cable between the feed point of the antenna and the isolation transformer. All those frequencies will be slightly different.
So no, that's if you're using your coax as your counterpoise.
Correct. Yeah, correct. So I just say stay consistent, and I'm going to estimate that my coax between the 49-to-1 transformer and my choke is probably 15-ish feet long, maybe 14, 18, somewhere in there. And it works really good, and it's very consistent. And what the other factor that affects tuning on those end feds a little bit is the height. So if you deploy it way up high in the oaks, it's a little different than if it's 8 feet off the ground. But
then it's down low.
Yeah. But his question about the counterpoise is you can do it any way that you want. You can put a counterpoise wire on, and that's great. But for me, I do it as simple as I can. So I go with just the coax and a choke.
Yeah, and then so if you want to use a counterpoise with your end-fed half wave, you'll probably want to put that common mode choke near the feed point, and that'll help the antenna, best utilize the counterpoise with that's connected to the transformer there. If you're gonna avoid the counterpoise and just use your coax as a counterpoise, and now a lot of people say, well, I don't need a counterpoise with my end-fed half wave. Well, yeah, you probably don't. But what you don't realize is that they are unknowingly using their coax is unknowingly to them has become that counterpoise. So, and like Dave said, if to keep RF out of the shack or to minimize those common mode currents past the point you don't want them anymore, for as part of the counterpoise, you'll want to position that choke probably say like a fifth of a wavelength of your lowest band. So if your end-fed half wave is 10 through 40 meters, fifth of a wavelength is probably about, I don't know, what is that about?
8 meters. 8 meters.
Yeah. So there you go. 8 meters, 30. Yeah. So 8 times 3 is about 24 feet. So, or how many is that in bananas? So,
the other thing I wonder is when I deploy mine, I always have the transformer at the low point. Okay, so it's usually like 6 or 7, maybe 8 feet off the ground, and so my feed line cable is coming down about 8 feet or so, and then it runs along the ground. Okay, would it be different if I deployed it where the transformer was, say, 30 feet up in the air, and so my feed line down to the choke transformer was all in free space rather than laying on the ground? Would that make any difference? I don't know.
I've a lot of times, I've got that chameleon end-fed half wave, and they've always recommended that you deploy the feed point up high, so then the coax droops down. Yeah. And in that case, I use the coax as the counterpoise, and I think it's kind of like, now you're sort of like an inverted L kind of thing going on there almost, and it works well. It actually does. I think in that situation, I've had very good results with it like that. But
I'm sure it would work. What I wonder is if the tuning is different, so that the length of your wire itself would need to be adjusted a little bit if the counterpoise was radically different from one deployment to the next like that. I don't know.
Sometimes, yes, that antenna is sometimes a little off for me, and I have to throw the tuner on. But usually it's below 2 to 1 in most cases.
Yeah, and I'm a guy that likes to pack light, so I prefer not to ever have to bring a tuner. So I steer clear of those, like your random wire. I'm not a fan of that. So, but my G90 has a tuner built in. If I'm using the G90, then I'm good.
In the G90, that'll tune a random wire just fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that answers everybody's questions about end-fit half waves and where to put the, if the counterpoise is necessary and where to put the choke. Choke it, if you're using the counterpoise, choke it high. If you're not using the counterpoise, choke it low, so that your coax becomes part of that that antenna network. So, okay, I'm gonna this is like perfect timing because we're at the bottom of the hour here, and I just want to kind of recognize all of our supporters and patrons here on the channel, because they're the people that really help keep the wheels on the bus, keep things turning and moving here in with the channel. And we got a lot of new ones this month, especially in our supporter level, or excuse me, our friend level. And our new patrons, our new friends are Sean Sullivan, Bill Jobs, Paul Tully, Daniel Holmes, and John Lamb. They all joined within the last month. So thank you so much for your support. It's greatly appreciated. And the ones that go above and beyond are associate producers. They're the ones that this screen is getting really full. I think I'm going to have to either make 2 screens or condense things. But Cliff Colvin, way down there in the bottom, he's our newest associate producers. But otherwise, yeah, John Young, Michael Lyle, the other Michael, Bill, Paul Raimondi, Andy Russell, Dave White, Brian Liebig, Rand Gray, Joe Marhine, Cliff Colvin, our new one, and Mark Martins of no relation to me. So you too can become a patron. You can support the channel, help the mission to inspire and educate the amateur radio community. That's over at, oops, I lost my, there we go. Patreon.com/KB9VBR antennas. So thanks everybody for your support. And now a word from our sponsor. KB9 VBR antennas are simple, effective, and affordable VHF and UHF antennas for amateur radio, MERS, public safety, and GMRS. Made in the USA with quality parts. Get yours online at jpole-antenna.com. And I just want to take a moment and direct everybody's attention to that website there, because let me see if I can. jpole-antenna.com. I got a new feature that is on my website. A lot of times I go out into a park and I don't make a video on it, because especially if it's a park I've been to before many times, or I just want to kind of relax and have an activation. So a video might not be generated, but I do try to record, what I did, take a few pictures. And I've got a new regular feature on the website called the activation log. And you can read about those other activations that may not necessarily result in a video, but have some interesting things happen. And I'll share a few photos and a little bit about the park. So that's over on the website, jpole-antenna.com. Mm-hmm. So, oops. All right. So, okay. But, all right. Bill. Yep. Bill, thanks for joining us this evening. It's greatly appreciated. And so, we gotta recognize here. Matt passed his extra today, so we've got a stroke AE in the house. Congratulations, Matt! And it's a worthy accomplishment. So it takes a lot of work to do your to get your extra. So congratulations. Mm-hmm. All right, and yep. Simon says, "Yep, we got them all answered." Follow-up question from Brent. He's never owned an end-fit half wave, but he used 50 feet of coax for portable because I've heard it's the most efficient. But I'm seeing a lot of hams say they use 100 feet with their end-fit half wave. Is that better for that particular antenna? That's a good question, and I I should bookmark this, but there's this great line in the ARRL antenna guide talking about coax, and the author says that with a sufficiently long piece of RG8X coax, you can get your SWR down to a perfect 1-to-1 match.
Yep. Yeah. He's got that right. Yeah.
So if you've got a recalcitrant antenna that you want to slim down into get down into a good match, just throw more coax in it until it behaves.
Yeah. 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 Oh boy. Don't worry about the fact that you can't hear anyone and no one can hear you. It's a perfect match.
It's a perfect match. but that actually, it's I've run into a few instances where I'll be using 25 feet of coax, and like the Wolf River coil's not behaving. And I've had this trouble a lot of times on the 20-meter band with that coil, and I add another 25 feet, and then all of a sudden everything just kind of falls into place. And the extra 25 feet's not enough to really exponentially increase your losses, but it does offer enough of a loss in order to sort of tone things down a little bit.
Yeah. Well, think about it. The braid on your coax is your very first radial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because it's every radial at the base of your antenna, whether you have one or none or 100, they're all connected to the shield of your coax.
Yep,
And
exactly.
so that shield is going to act as one of the radials. So if the coax gets longer or shorter, it could tune or detune. The way to avoid that is, again, go back to the choke. If you put an RF choke or an isolator in the coax line, then that eliminates that problem that you ran into with different length cable causing the antenna to detune.
Yeah. So I don't think I would. The only time I would use, back to Brent's question, I think the only time I would use 100 feet of cable is if I needed to get from point A to point B. I oftentimes will use. I carry 3 cables, one an ARRL 8X, a 50-footer, and 2 25s, and I typically will use the 50-foot cable for almost everything, and unless I'm really close to the I've got the antenna deployed in such a way that I can get by with just the 25-footer, but typically I'll use that 50-foot length of cable, and at the losses are minimal, on the HF band with 8X. I think the 20-meter band, 100 feet of 20, is probably like less than a dB, around 1 dB or so. So it's we're not talking any giant losses, and that gives me the flexibility to set up where I need to be, and I can get the cable to where I'm going to have the radio. But, I don't go any longer than that. I wouldn't use 100-footer for sure. So
no, if the only reason you're adding coax is to get a better match, you've got a different problem.
That you do. So, all right. And Alan, longer coax, you'll get a false low SWR reading. That's basically that's the too long didn't read version of what I said. So let's see. Justin says, best study resources you found for upgrading to general from technician, and the FTM 400 videos helped me out a ton. So glad to hear about the videos. Resources in upgrading. Probably, nowadays a lot of people use the online resources like Ham Study and whatnot. I know when I was going through that process, we didn't have all these fancy schmancy online things, and it was the Gordon West books, and So I spend more of my time reading those than doing the online thing. I think it really, the resources really depend on the type of learner you are. Some people are good with books and those kind of tactical study materials, and the other ones, really, and the other ones, it's the online stuff, the question and answer thing, and then the third group, it's got to be the video series. So I guess there's, the long answer is, or short answer is, there's no really one good way, best way in which to study. It's the way in which works best for you and your situation.
Yeah. I was out of the hobby for a long time. I got it my general back in the 70s, and then I was out for a long time, and then it came back, and the code requirement was gone. But the thing that shocked me when I got serious about upgrading to extra was that the entire pool of questions is publicly available.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm like, oh, I had to think about that. Are you serious? These are the exact questions that are on the test, and I can see all of the questions and I can study. To me, that seemed unbelievably fortunate, and it was, because it took me like a couple of weeks of just reviewing the questions. Because what are there in the extra pool? What, like 600 questions, maybe?
700. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can sit there, and whether it's with flashcards or just random tests on your phone or whatever, you just repeat these questions over and over and over. And if you got one that you really do not understand, like it makes no sense to you whatsoever, you got two choices. Either you memorize the answer,
Mm-hmm.
or you get out your phone and do a little Google search on that exact topic and see if you can get something that will clear it up in your mind. But we have the luxury of that entire pool, and we can study the specific questions. So I'd be hard pressed to buy a big book or sit through a month-long training thing just to pass the test. I'm not saying it's not a good idea, but if your sole purpose is just to pass the test,
Mm-hmm.
just you got to focus on the pool of questions.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think too, but there are certain questions that may not resonate with you, and memorization is the only way you can get through it. Like I remember with the extra exam, that Smith chart stuff. It was just like totally over my head at the time, and it's just okay. We're just gonna memorize it, get through it, and get through it. Same with some of those electronics things too, because that's not my native, my native skill is working with electronics. So it's and a couple people here. Let's see. Star said, "Yeah, Ham Study app is great. Practice tests and explain the answers behind the question." That's what I've heard about Ham Study. So that's always, that would be a good a great resource. Ham Study for the general. Took the exam remotely through their website. I think Ham Study offers. They got like a board that you can find testing sessions, so they can match you up with a remote testing group, which is really nice. So it's so those are a couple of the online. If you're looking for an online resource, I think Ham Study is probably the most of the one that's probably recommended the most. So I hope that gets you. I hope that gets you to where you want to go. So, all right. Let's see. You know what? I think now is probably a good time. Dave, we were talking about before the show on a couple of different topics, and one that's really kind of hitting a nerve, striking a chord with a lot of people, is the ARRL's recent announcement of increasing the dues for 2024 and making the QST magazine an option, an add-on, so as part of your membership. So we're just kind of a little bit of background here. I'm gonna pull up. Let's see if I can pull up the screen here. I should have had this. There we go. Yeah. Oops, that's the wrong one. I thought I had it. The other thing we can talk about is the.
Yeah, we got to talk about that other one. You could leave that one up and we can talk about that first.
Yeah, we'll get back to it. So the membership dues, since I already started talking about that, starting January 1st, U.S. membership is going to increase to $59. I think it's currently $49, and additional family members are $12, and currently that's $10. And then they've got, and then if you want QST magazine, that would be an additional $25 to get QST mailed to you. If you don't, otherwise QST is available as electronic version, so you can read it. You can read it electronically as part of your membership. But if you want a printed copy, it would be $25 for the printed version of the magazine. Let's see, students, $30. The blind is $12. I think that's pretty close to what it used to be. Internationals, $59, and with QST, it's $95. So, and life memberships are currently on hold. They've kind of been suspended until they figure out what they're going to do with that. So,
that's a story in and of itself.
Yeah.
Inflation has kind of tipped that lifetime membership thing into an unsustainable situation.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that's killing these publications right now, and I subscribe not only to QST, but I subscribe to CQ magazine, and they have the same issue. I mean, same problems. It's the cost of the paper, the cost of the ink, the whole printing and mailing process has just, inflation is a problem, but it's skyrocketed in the magazine publishing.
It's terrible. Besides the cost of paper and printing, that's gone sky high, but postage is astronomical now. I know. One of our I was just reading an editorial today in one of our local free news publications that come in town here. They do the arts and entertainment stuff, and the publisher mails copies to people, outside of their distribution area. And he said, he said the postal, it used to be that, if you were a newspaper, you could mail your issues at a very competitive rate, and that's no longer the case. So it's the news and magazine mailing rates are just as bad as everything else. So, we're ham radio guys, but it affects everybody. I'm in a ski club. Okay, we have a downhill ski club with 100 people, and we used to send out a monthly newsletter through the mail. Again, it's not feasible. It just costs too much. And they either have to raise the cost or figure out a different way. So the ski club sends out the newsletter electronically, and these magazine publishers are desperately wanting to do the same thing. They really want you as a subscriber, but they want you to accept it electronically so that they can circumvent the whole process of printing and mailing. And old timers like me, we change slow. So I'm reluctant. I want that thing, despite the fact that my basement has got stacks and stacks of useless magazines that I'm never going to go back to. I still find comfort in having it in my mailbox every month, and I guess I just need to get beyond that. So get yourself a nice pad or e-reader or something like that, because I got a feeling for as a $25 add-on, I think that the league is gonna very quickly run into a situation where they cannot afford to print that magazine because people aren't going to buy into it. And it's with printing, it's you need that scale in order to drive the price down. And if there's I think, what is there, 130,000, 160,000 members right now, so they're printing 160,000 copies of QST because just about everybody gets QST. Well, they probably print less than that because not everybody, if they say, if you're like blind or special situations, but so say they print 150,000 copies of QST. Well, now if it's opt-in and they only print 75,000 copies, now your per copy price increases, and you'll save money on postage, but because that's at these volumes, that's still a flat rate. But I think they're gonna. I think we'll probably see the print magazine phased out in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. Well, it would make life a lot easier for the publications. That's for darn sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's inevitable. It's a $29 add-on now. Eventually it'll be $100 add-on, and people finally they'll get to a point where no one will be willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
But the league has a deeper problem with expenses than, say, CQ magazine does, where CQ is just they're just selling books and printing magazines.
Mm-hmm.
The league is trying to represent the hobby on a national level, and through all these FCC proceedings and negotiations and whatnot, you're purchasing representation at a high level that you as an individual can't possibly do to protect your hobby.
Yes.
And some of us recognize that value and some of us do not. And so if you look at it as just, well, this is what I'm paying for the subscription to QST, period.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to have a really hard time justifying whatever the price is. But there's way more to it than that, and it's hard for some guys to wrap their head around it. But the next topic you want to bring up is a perfect example of it.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. So
yeah.
But just looking at some of the comments here, and Colin in Australia, still cheaper than theirs. They pay $95 annually. Of course, now you got to consider the conversion factor, the exchange rate. But still, that's still more than what we pay. And I was thinking about comparables, and I was trying to think, just something that came to mind. What would be a comparable cost for a membership organization? And the first thing that came to my mind, because I've had experience with it, when our kids were young, was with the Scouts. So what's the cost to be? Oops, here we go. So I was looking at what the cost of dues were for scouting, and $75 a year for Cub Scouts, Scouts, BSA, and venturing, $45 for explorers. Adults is $45 a year. So if you've got a family in Scouts, that is a big cost. And then their magazine is $15 for the Scout Life, which is what they call Boys Life magazine used to be. So it's that's if you compare it, scouting to the ARRL, that's we're getting a pretty good deal with the league. So
yeah. Well, and if compare even more of an apples to apples, I don't buy a lot of magazines, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But my mom and dad were in a nursing home, and so I would go to the grocery store and pick up a magazine and take it over there, wherever they like to page through them. Do you know what a magazine costs off the rack at the grocery store, the drugstore right now?
Oh, it's like
Like
$6-7, isn't it?
it's like $8 or $9.
Oh, geez.
It's just for like outdoor life or
Hmm.
fur fishing game or whatever you name it. Those magazines are expensive,
Yeah.
and it's all related to the printing and
Yep.
distribution costs.
Yep. We got Tim from over in the UK, about an $80 equivalent for the RSGB. So that's with the exchange rate factored in. So I guess we're still getting a deal.
Yep.
There's, I know there's a lot of people have been taking issue with the organizational structure of the league, and I don't know if there's overhead that they can eliminate, but I got a feeling that they're probably picked pretty well to the bone. So that might be I don't think cutting those costs is going to make a meaningful difference in what you're paying in dues. So it's yeah. Karen says representation is valuable. They're our arm. They're our mouthpiece for to the FCC and the Congress, the legislature. So if we want, if we want to see things changed in those regards, we need an organized front, because a lot of little people aren't gonna make enough as much noise as a well-tuned body there that can present that information. So it's good old Scout says, yeah, we can change if we have to, I guess.
I just last night I queued up Red Green. I watched about 3 episodes. I was dying. Oh,
yeah, keep your stick on the ice.
Yeah. Oh, God, I love that show. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah, if they don't find you handsome, at least find you handy.
At least find you handy. So that's about my extent of it. Oh, holy smokes. So all right. I'm gonna grab a couple more questions here before we kind of get into our other topic we were going to talk about. Let's see. Oh, my page just got kind of mixed up here. This is something I really wanted to talk about with you, Dave. This is a question I got on email last week, and the person asked, because this is related to Parks on the Air. What types of experiences have you had where average citizens, as in non-hams, come up to you and ask what you're doing? How do you react to your explanation? Have you ever had park rangers or law enforcement called to your location? If so, how do you handle that? And he was wondering if this would be a video topic in the future. So I think this is kind of a perfect conversation that would for the live stream, though. We could kind of talk about that. And the funny thing is that as I got that message, I just had an interaction with a person while I was activating, and it was in my last video, the one that I released last Sunday when we were up on Lake Superior. I was sitting on the beach. I wasn't even on the air yet, and they asked me what I was doing. And when I usually get those kind of questions, I'm really kind of I don't get into big detail what I'm doing, because I know that I can't find my notes here. I know that a lot of the stuff is just going to make their eyes glaze over and go over their heads. So I typically try to keep it as simple and as low key as possible. And I say, the first thing I say is, it's ham radio. And usually that's enough to kind of resonate with them, because they may have some type of experience or knowledge of ham radio. And I'll say, I'm talking to people all over the US or something like that, and I'll point out, there's my antenna, here's my transceiver, and sort of talk about that a little bit. But I don't go into the weeds with like what POTA is, Parks on the Air, or emergency communications or anything like that. I just say, oh, I'm just out here having fun talking to people across the U.S. And that's usually, for 90% of the time, that satisfies their interest.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's been almost 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I unless I'm putting up like my, sometimes if I put on my link dipole with that big telescopic mast, I got about it's not really big. It's about a 22 or 25-foot
Yeah.
mast. When you start popping that up in the campground, sometimes people will notice because they're just walking around looking at campsites, and yours looks kind of strange with that. Is that a flagpole or what do you. And then you point out the wires that they hadn't even noticed because all they saw was your support pole. If you have the right idea, though, you just say, hey, this is ham radio. Okay, then you can tell immediately by their response to that statement where this is going to go.
Yeah.
If their eyes glaze over, like I have no idea what you're talking about, then you keep it really simple and just say, well, it's just a hobby of mine. I just have fun.
Yep.
Good enough. The firewood store is down this road. Have a nice. If they say, oh yeah, I've heard of that. My grandpa used to be a ham radio guy.
I got an uncle that does that.
Yeah. Then you can go. Then you kind of latch onto that and say, yeah. I've been doing it almost as long as your grandpa did. And whatever. And so you be friendly and you just feed them as much as they're interested in. You have to treat them like my 6-year-old grandson. He's interested for a while, but eventually that's enough. And now we have a different subject. So
Yep. It's not their jam, but they want to know, they're curious on what's going on. So
yeah. And when you start talking geography, they're usually fascinated by that.
yeah.
Like you're talking to a guy in California, really? Spain? Oh, you got to be kidding me! Yeah, so they like that. So, but I've never had an issue with like a policeman or a park ranger or anybody like that. I mean, they might drive by and maybe stop and look. It seems to me I did have a guy once ask me, what exactly I was going to do, but not in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody ever told me you have to take that down or you have to leave or you can't do this.
I've never had that issue either. I've never had a run-in with either rangers or law enforcement, but I try to keep a small footprint. If I'm in a day use area, I keep my footprint as small as possible, within a couple parking spaces or in a back corner or something, because I don't really look for that foot traffic. I want to try to avoid that. So I don't want people walking through my my radials or anything, or getting clotheslined by an antenna. So
I think keeping your footprint small and don't create hazards. Don't create a physical hazard. Radials laying on the ground, they're problems. Kids running through, they trip. The dog's running around, it gets tangled up in it. I try to stay away from these radials. And likewise, you don't want a wire that's like coming down from a tree branch about neck level where somebody's going to get clotheslined when they walk underneath it. Just use some common sense and you'll be fine. Once in a while you hear about people getting in these confrontations and I don't, I'm approaching 400 activations. So it isn't like I've only been out there 10 times and I don't think it's a problem as long as you are sensible.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And I think, like I said, I haven't had a law enforcement experience with Parks on the Air, but I know in past experiences with working with law enforcement, the easiest way to kind of deal with them is that if you're friendly and you make eye contact and don't talk too much, to let them do the talking. Usually, you're gonna fare the best.
Yeah.
because
Yep.
they're looking for you to spill the beans. So it's now you tell me what you're doing here. You tell me what you see, and
Yep. Yep.
and that
Yep.
usually works. That
Yeah.
in other experiences that I've had. So
Yeah.
it's
I kind of like it when another camper in the campground takes an interest and asks a question. I'm cool with that. You know,
I had that happen once. I did a late shift, and I guess I must have been, it was getting close to quiet hours, and I must have been making a lot of noise because the next day, the guy comes into the campsite and he starts from across the way, and he asks me, "Are you a ham radio operator?" And I says, "Yeah." He says, "Can I?" I said, "Was I making too much noise last night?" And he says, "Oh, no, 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 not at all. But can I bring my kids over and you can show them what you do? Because
yeah.
we homeschool, and I think this is something they should really see." So yeah, he
Yeah.
brought his kids over, and I gave a little 3-minute spiel on ham radio. So
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I
so
think that happened to us at Black River Falls, didn't it? The
I
guys,
think, oh yeah,
that guy in Jason's site, he brought his son over, and next
yep.
thing you know, we're over at their campsite having making marshmallows on the
We're
table.
roasting marshmallows because we were
Yeah.
having so much fun. Robert says he's only had 2 instances with park rangers that were quick. One just reminding me of the park hours, and the other was interested in how far I was making it. That's a good interaction. I like to,
Yep.
interactions like that are what you want to be operating and conducting yourself in a way that you get you get interactions like that. So it's that's the way to do it. All right. I just saw a chat here from a scout here, and it says they're kind of related here, but the Minnesota POTA is going to have a meetup in August 12th at Wild River State Park. Wild River State Park is near Stillwater. If you're if you're in the Twin Cities area or western Wisconsin, Stillwater is just north of the Twin Cities. But they're going to have a meetup there on August 12th. And I know I've been invited. They sent me an email, but I've had to beg off because Dave, you and we're going to be doing something that weekend.
Yeah.
So
Yes, we are.
Yep. That's also that we're going to be at Lake Wissota State Park, which is also in the western part of the state. But Saturday morning we'll be at the Chippewa Valley Amateur Radio Club's Ham Fest in Chippewa Falls. So
yep, at the fairgrounds.
At the fairgrounds.
Yep.
So if you want to catch me, I'm going to be at the Ham Fest. But if you want to go to the POTA meetup, man, if I wasn't going to the Ham Fest, I'd be at the POTA meetup. So.
Yeah. Well, what time does the meetup that week? Yeah.
I think it was. I'd have to look it up, but I think it was around 11 or noon.
Yeah. So. Okay. So here's the scenario. We're going to tell our wives. Yeah. Yeah. You know where I'm going with this. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I'm afraid what my wife might say. We're not going to the meetup.
It's 10 to 6, so we can go to the Ham Fest quick, and then buzz over for a quick appearance at Stillwater. That's only an hour's drive, isn't it?
To Stillwater? Yeah. That's about what it is. That's about right, because it's just north of Hudson.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we're gonna be busy. We got videos to produce at Lake Wissota State Park.
Oh yeah, we've got quite the production schedule lined up. So a lot of ideas. Hopefully, we can get them all done in the weekend. So it's
I'm gonna spill the beans. I'm desperately trying to talk Michael into his first CW POTA activation.
Oh man. I better start practicing. Can I cram enough in a week to?
I was telling you about all the little tips and tricks. You know, I've seen people that hunted POTA on CW without even using a key.
Well,
Okay,
there you go.
think about that for a few minutes.
Can I do an activation without a key?
No.
No.
Well,
maybe.
maybe if you're a really, really good typer, but
Yeah.
I no. But hunting is possible, and we're gonna make it happen, and people are gonna they'll get the laughs watching this.
Oh man. Well, we'll figure something. It'll be interesting. So we might have to. We might have to get a couple sixers of lineies or something in order to make it happen.
Oh, and you got to be honest. You actually passed the code test at the FCC office. So,
well, I wasn't at the office, but it was. Yeah, it was. I did pass the test.
Yeah,
allegedly.
So you're pretending like you've never played the code.
I'm a member of the Long Island CW club, but I gotta.
Did you pass?
Huh?
Did you pass? You have a certificate?
No. I'm still slowly taking those classes.
Oh, jeez. What are you on the? You're on the 10-year plan or what?
Something like that. Yeah.
But I thought I swore CW off for good back in 1976 too. I really did. I hated studying and I hated to learn that code. That was it's what you called the gatekeeper at the time, and it really kept a lot of people from ever becoming a ham. But POTA has changed all that, because when you set up in a park or you hike up on top of that mountain or whatever it is, you're packing light, and a lot of these guys are out there with like 5, maybe 10-watt radios and a battery and a compromised antenna, and single sideband quite often just doesn't fly.
It just doesn't cut it. Yeah.
But with CW, these little QRP rigs are racking up contacts left and right, and it's really, really fun, and it's inspired a lot of people to take it back up after they all thought they swore it off, and it's pretty. Some of the old timers are really like shocked that there's CW guys that are coming online new, and most of them are POTA guys.
No, absolutely. POTA and SOTA. It's a genuine resurgence of CW. And you see almost as many CW spots on the POTA page as you do digital FT8 spots. So it's
and it's very beginner friendly, because it's a little bit like contesting, in that the exchanges are very repetitive and very very formatted. So you don't have to sit and head copy or copy things that are catching you totally off guard. It's very, very predictable, which makes both sending and receiving really, really pretty easy.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to it. So
I bet you are.
We'll see what happens. I'll practice. So I'll practice so that I can, at the very least, I can do my call sign.
And if you drink
recognize it.
You drink enough Spotted Cow, you won't even be able to do that. So
no. Yeah. So. Yeah, Don says CW kept me off the air for 50 years, and now he wants to conquer it. So maybe I got nothing bad to say about the Long Island CW Club. I think it's a great organization, and if you need that kind of structure to check in regular intervals, to do those lessons, then that might be that's one way to stay accountable. Although 45 says, he took a few classes and stopped to focus on getting my extra, then couldn't seem to get back into it. So it's but so we'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll make it work.
Well, back in the old days, you didn't have these radios with built-in keyers and the keyers with memories that you could pre-program, and that's just, that's greatly simplified the whole process. You watched me when we did the Wisconsin QSO party, that we did that multi thing, and you saw me sitting there working CW, and I very seldom was touching the key.
No, you were almost entirely keyboard.
Yeah,
you made 200 contacts.
So. Yeah, and it really is low stress. It's not like you got a headache after 10 minutes, because you got all these things that are helping and making it easier. And it's if you use the macros effectively, it's almost as simple as FT8, really.
Oh, we won't get into that. That's another holy war.
Yeah. Can you hear all the computers being turned off right now?
Yeah. Yeah, the keyboard warriors are gonna hit us hard. So, well, I think we're almost getting to that time. We need to talk about something that's important. And if Joe was here, he would say,
"You know what really grinds my gears?"
And this has to do with just a recent proposed a notice of proposed rulemaking from the FCC, and it has to do with the petition to, I don't know, where's my notes here, the Shortwave Modernization Coalition proposal to the FCC. And in a nutshell, what that has to do with is groups wanting to use high-powered HF transceivers on frequencies that are adjacent to amateur radio bands. And now when we're talking high power, we're talking stuff like
20 kilowatts.
20 kilowatts and high gain log periodic antennas.
And 50 kilohertz of bandwidth.
Yeah, 50 kilohertz of bandwidth. That's the killer, is that 50 kilohertz of bandwidth.
So, and the 20 kilowatts.
Yeah, and the 20.
Yeah. No, I was thinking the same thing today. When I sent you the email with the topics to talk about, I'm thinking, Joe's not going to be here, and I'm not a gear grinder. But if anything grinds my gears in ham radio right now, it's this thing, and it's not just because somebody has an idea. Okay, everybody has ideas. Some are good, some are bad. What really grinds my gears on this one is the purpose of this rule change. These guys aren't going to set up some shortwave propaganda thing where they try to convince the Russians that communism is bad or something. The sole purpose, as I understand it, is to allow these stock traders on Wall Street to trigger their trades faster.
Yes.
Okay, are you kidding me?
They're trading on arbitrage, and what that means is they're looking at the cost of a stock, the share price of a stock at the London market and the New York market, and because of delays in communication, the London price may be different than the New York price by a factor of a penny or two, because of that imbalance. Because it takes milliseconds for a signal to travel on a fiber network. Exactly. They figure that if they can use HF communications, which goes at the speed of light, we can shave that millisecond down to microsecond, take advantage of the arbitrage, the difference in cost, and sell or buy shares to make money out of nothing, which is totally insane. It's an insane concept.
Yeah. Yeah, it is the ultimate of insider trading and
Yeah.
short selling and oh my God, it serves humanity in no positive way whatsoever. It's
Yes.
just oh my gosh.
So, but so the FCC will potentially allow this to the ruin of HF spectrum all up and down everywhere, because yeah, it's crazy. Money talks. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And and as
we
ham
got
radio operators, you know, we,
yeah, we got Gordon Gecko in the room. So
yeah, you know, we have a dog in the fight because we're ham radio operators and
Mhm.
this and these ridiculous the transmitters themselves, they're not ridiculous, and the there may be an application for some of these HF frequencies that could really be useful and
Mhm.
productive and make this a better world, and I'm not against change, but this application is insane. It's
It
just
is.
it's so in the process of creating insanity, they're making our lives miserable with the likelihood of really severe interference.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where our dog is in the fire.
That's
And
that's where, yeah, we're in the fight. So and just to back up, Alan asks, how could it be faster than the internet? So, well, we're going to talk about quantum physics. And um, actually, Dave Kassler has got the best explainer video on what this whole thing is and why it's so important. So you might want to look on his channel. He did it about a week or so ago. Just dig back through the archives. But basically, so HF communication from the antenna to the antenna travels at the speed of light. That's how the electromagnetic waves are that fast. A signal in a fiber optic loop is actually traveling, even though it's fiber and it's light transmitted, that signal is actually traveling slower than the speed of light. There's inherent latency in fiber optics, so that if, say, there was an equivalent line of fiber cable running from New York to London, and two antennas beaming from New York to London, the signal transmitted from London will reach New York faster over the air than it will inside the cable because of that latency. So
yeah, and the satellite communications is a little bit slower because of the distance.
yeah, I don't think they're using. Yeah, I don't think for day trading they're using satellite at all. It's all fiber and stuff. In fact, I've read that Wall Street actually, to slow down some of these day traders, some of these these hedge fund, the derivative traders, the ones that use the automatic trading systems,
Mhm.
they've added dummy loops inside the infrastructure in order to slow those signals down even more. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the whole purpose of this, is the reason why they want to have the rules changed to allow them to have these high powered 50 kilohertz wide signals, to make money out of nothing.
Yeah.
So
when your 20-meter band goes to crap, you'll be, at least you'll have the known that some guy is getting really, really rich.
really, really rich at your expense.
Yeah.
So, so
I don't know. I can't imagine this passing, but obviously those Wall Street traders have a lot more money to throw in the argument than the amateur radio community does. So.
I think they've been running as an experimental license, as a proof of concept, but I know the power is a lot lower. that with their experimental permit than what they want now. So it's yeah, we got some bet in the house here. It sounds like well-connected day traders watching Office Space too many times. The old rounding scam that was in Superman 3. So an episode of Elementary, they had somewhere similar storyline. Getting information a fraction of a second sooner to make money in trading. That's the whole deal. I mean, it sounds almost insider-ish, but and Brent asks a really good question. So all this added noise and interference, what would happen in times of natural disasters? Will they pause or slow their data transfers? And I don't think so. I mean, if there's money to be made, people are going to do what they need to do to make money. I don't know. I don't even know if this is going to affect, say, like military or non-governmental communications. So,
Yeah.
Maritime channels. So are those all up for being interfered with? So that's a really good question. And it's probably a lot more. We've probably got a lot more questions than we do answers to on this particular thing. But it's really, like I said, that's something that really kind of sticks in my craw. If it was for a noble purpose, maybe one thing. Well, find a way to make it work, but it's just greed. So.
Yep.
All right. So
Hey, it's getting late. We gotta update the magic carpet story.
yes. always a turn on that. So
Everywhere you look on Facebook or in other hams that you run into at club meetings and whatnot, it's like this this aluminum screen ground plate for the verticals in the portable deployments like POTA. This has just exploded, and the video that you put out about I think it was since I was on the show at Menominee, I think we put that video out. And the last time I looked, there were like 130,000 views of that video, which is like, what is that? That's like 50 times what your typically videos are getting. It's just phenomenal how that's.
It's a big number. I was going to see if I can look up here quick and see, where we're at on that, because it's 134,000 views so far.
Yeah,
which is insane. 4,700 likes.
yeah. And guys have taken the ball and gone, obviously run and with it. And I see people using other materials, metallic materials, not just the aluminum window screen that we played with and brought to the surface here. I saw one that I really want to try. Those sunshades that you put on your windows,
your windshield,
the front of your vehicle, so that the sun doesn't cook get too hot inside the vehicle. And those things apparently have some kind of a metallic surface on them. And so I got to try that, because the one problem with the window screen is transporting it. Where you kind of have to roll it up, and it tends to get a little frayed on the edges or get smashed or bent or whatever. And it's pretty rugged. You can straighten it
rugged,
out.
yeah.
But I'm thinking that window thing, if that folds up into something that's easier to transport than the screen, that might be worth a try. I got to try that.
Yeah. Don here says that he's using a reflective blanket and it works great, and there's no sharp edges. So it's, anything metallic, aluminized, or something like that will work, as long as you can get that conductive connection. It doesn't have to be window screen. It can be chicken wire, it can be hardware cloth, it can be brass.
Yeah.
Whatever you.
Yep.
So
But
it
it's
doesn't have to be
but it's
anything particular.
this POTA thing where the activators are going out and they're always looking for a way to make it easier to
Mhm.
carry, it's faster to set up, it's faster to take down. We're looking for convenience, and we've really hit a sweet spot with this.
Yeah.
As opposed to stringing a bunch of radials out into the poison ivy, and you know, yeah. No, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
No, yeah, I'm genuinely surprised too, and it's David, you need to take all the credit for it because it was your idea, and we just
Yeah,
we just kind of ran with it. And I'm the one that I'm just like the face man, and you're the idea guy. So
yeah. It's 67 years it took me to come up with a really good one, and I hit it. So,
well, you knocked this one out of the park. I really enjoy using the window screen because it sets up so fast, and people don't trip. I was at a beach last 4th of July. We were at a lake up in the national forest, and there was people milling around and whatnot, and I had the window screen set up, and man, if I had radials set where we were, and my antenna set in the place that it was, it'd be a trip hazard for sure, because
yeah.
even though I was off the sidewalk in the grass at a picnic table, people still walk up to that dang antenna and
Mm-hmm.
like the fools that they are. Oh man.
Yeah, yeah. Yep, and that window screen is it's kind of handy. I ran into a situation. I was at camping, and I had forgotten to bring my 49-to-1 transformer. My
Mhm.
plan was to put up the end fence, so I put the wire up. I got my 67-foot wire hanging up in these huge pine trees. I'm all set. I look into my bag and go to pull out my 49-to-1 Unan, and no go. Yeah, like, damn, this is going to be one bad camping trip.
Mhm.
So I sat down and thought, I don't have any radials with me. What can I do? MacGyver something together here. I thought, oh, I've got this window screen that I was going to use with the Wolf River coil. So I put that underneath this 67-foot wire that was already hanging up in the trees,
Mhm.
and I turned it into an 80-meter quarter wave vertical.
Hmm.
It was like an L shape,
Mhm.
but it was essentially a 80-meter quarter wave vertical. And I ran
Yep.
FT8 until I think it was damn near midnight on 80 meters in the middle of the summer with the quarter wave vertical. That's pretty cool.
Which is 67 feet of wire and the
And a
window
window
screen.
screen. Window screen.
Hey, that's great.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, necessity is the mother of invention. So
Exactly. Yeah.
all right, we're getting to the end of the line here, so I just want to kind of say a couple things quick before we go. Dave and I are going to be out, not this coming weekend, but the weekend of the 11th, 12th, 13th, Lake Wissota State Park. We'll be at the Chippewa Valley Hamfest on Saturday morning. So if you're in the Chippewa Falls area, I'd love to meet with you. And let's see. I know that coming in September, Superfest in Milwaukee at Ham Radio Outlet. I plan to be in attendance there at least in the morning hours, and then Sunday we're going to be at which is like September 23rd, 24th, or something like that. That third weekend in September, and then on the 24th, I'm gonna go down to Belvedere, Illinois, for the Chicago FM Club Hamfest. So if you're in the Chicagoland area on in the third weekend of September there for that Hamfest, I'd love to say hi too. So a couple of things that are coming up in the next few weeks. And then our next live stream is going to be Thursday, September 7th, that Thursday after Labor Day. So set your clocks now, or mark it on your calendar and save the date. So it's it's always a good time. And with that, David, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, I'm not
glad
as
you could
funny.
fill
I'm
in.
not as funny as Joe, but
No. We'll have to work on it. I know some people like it. I see comments afterwards. Some people, people really like Joe, and people really like you too, Dave. So that's it's just a different thing. And I'm glad that we can kind of mix things up, and you can be here this evening.
Yeah, it's a good time. I enjoy it.
So, all right. Well, thanks a lot, everybody, and thanks for the questions. And hopefully we got through. Hopefully we answered everybody's questions. And if not, you can always drop me a line. I'm pretty good about following up on my emails. And have a great evening, Michael, KB9VBR.
I'm Dave, KZ9V.
Have a great night and 73.
73.